Republicans have been very kind to me from the beginning. Even from the beginning, when Bobby was running as a Democrat, they weren't mean.
No.
And they never have been.
No.
And I can't say that for the Democrats.
I agree.
And it's
sad because it's not the Democrats we grew up with.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the difference that people don't, I think, see. They're like, why did you turn on the Democrats? Well, first of all, I didn't. Like I said, we voted for the same person. But I'm not going to pretend I don't notice how different they are.
Yeah.
How mean they've become.
Bill Maher and Cheryl Hines teamed up to take aim at the Democrats, and the outcome was surprisingly entertaining. The formerly loyal Democrats unpacked how the party has unraveled in recent years as Donald Trump's momentum has intensified. They also exposed why their faith has faded in a party that once inspired them but now feels completely transformed.
Again, one good thing about Trump, he really, really does not like war.
Which I love that about him.
I kind of do, because I don't want war either, and most of them are unnecessary.
I agree.
I mean, he took a long time when I had that dinner with him talking about the pictures he sees coming from Ukraine, the stuff that doesn't get out on the news. It's like raw footage of bodies in the field.
Yes.
And you could tell it really moved him.
He's
like, I do not want to see this, and I'm the kind of guy who can fix this.
It's honestly gripping to see Cheryl Hines and Bill Maher openly admit there's actually something they admire about Donald Trump. Coming from two voices who once personified full-force Trump takedowns, especially Maher, it's a startling turn. For years, Maher's monologues were the go-to source for razor-sharp, never-ending shots at Trump and the Republican Party. But now, this more contemplative, recalibrated version of him has flipped the old script, pulling in a wave of unexpected new fans while pushing away some of his most loyal longtime supporters. Even people within his own party are baffled. Some argue Maher has simply had enough of the Democrats' mixed messages, while others swear he's been softened, or even subtly won over, after that much talked about dinner he shared with Trump. Whatever the truth is, the shift is unmistakable, and it's creating more buzz than anything he said during all those years of predictable, straight-from-the-playbook commentary.
You know, he's never not going to be Trump. So, of course, he's like, I solved 9 wars. Okay, even if it's half that, it's still good that we're solving them and not starting them.
That's the thing that I find that I really like about President Trump when he talks about Ukraine. And he talks about Ukraine and Russia, and he will say they're losing people on both sides.
Donald Trump has consistently emphasized that he has no intention of pulling the U.S. into another cycle of endless wars, and he's been vocal about making the end of the Ukraine conflict one of his defining goals. Whether people support his strategy or question it, there's no denying that his approach is reshaping the conversation. Trump has repeatedly insisted that he wants the war concluded, and Maher pointed out that his stance stands in stark contrast to Biden's. That contrast alone signals a serious shift in momentum. Regardless of how anyone feels about Trump personally, it's hard to ignore how closely this moment mirrors the outcome President Biden spent years aiming for, but ultimately couldn't secure. While Biden pushed for diplomatic solutions that never fully took hold, Trump's unconventional pressure tactics appear to be generating movement, or at least steering the situation onto a new track. And for Trump, this is rapidly turning into a major political victory, one with consequences far beyond U.S. borders.
What somebody was just asking me about when I met him, what surprised me the most, and I said I was surprised that he really likes to listen to people. He's very curious in what you have to say. They hated
when I said that. Again, because I'm just telling you what happened. What, should I lie?
I guess so. I guess
right.
That's what
he kicked me in the balls under the table, and then
I knew he would.
He threw the spaghetti against the wall when I raised the subject of tariffs. No. No.
I can already imagine plenty of Democrats practically seething over Bill Maher's latest remarks about Donald Trump. For years, everyone expected Maher to stick to the standard script and fire off non-stop criticism. But the moment he showed even a flicker of admiration, or simply acknowledged that Trump can actually be disarmingly pleasant and likable, the entire dynamic shifted. Cheryl Hines has seen that side of Trump herself, and her experience only strengthens what many have refused to recognize. People fully expected Maher to walk away from meeting Trump armed with sharper insults, fresh outrage, and even more fiery attacks. Instead, he came back with nuance, and that alone has set off an emotional tailspin among some of his own followers. What this really reveals is the mindset of certain individuals. They don't dislike Trump because they've met him or formed any personal judgment. They dislike him because they've been instructed to. And Maher just broke that narrative wide open.
Yeah, he listened.
Yeah, I think he actually wants more people around him for a stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
I was very surprised and mentioned it again, they hated me for it, that as opposed to so many important people I've met who, when you talk to them, you don't feel like they're really listening. They're kind of like, you know what I mean? And then when they answer you, it doesn't quite track, you know?
They're just waiting for their turn to talk.
This is both laugh-out-loud funny and surprisingly revealing. Politicians stroll into interviews equipped with preloaded talking points, polished lines, and narratives so rehearsed you can practically hear the cue cards flipping in their heads. It's as if they're reading from an invisible script floating just above the lens, and even when an interviewer throws a curveball, an unexpected question, a sharper angle, anything to knock them off script, most politicians won't budge an inch. They cling to their talking points with almost mechanical stubbornness, repeating the same lines again and again, even when their answers no longer match what they're being asked. It produces these strange, cringe-worthy moments where you can practically watch the disconnect happening in real time.
Yes, or they're just on a different level. I mean, these are show people too. I've had that. But I didn't get that with him at all.
No.
I got a guy who looked in my eyes,
Yes.
was listening to what I said, waited until I finished, even when it was contradictory, when it was he never got blustery or mad about it. You know, he said some things that I don't agree with and some things that I think are just, you know, plainly not right, like, you know, third term, yeah, I think you could do it. I'm having people look into it. No, you can't do it. and you can have people look into it from now until the end of time. It's like 12 words in the Constitution. You can't do it.
This also highlights why Kamala Harris so often delivered broad, hazy responses instead of solid, detailed answers. Even when a question clearly called for specificity, she frequently drifted into those now famous word salads, long, polished-sounding sentences that ultimately communicated almost nothing. Watching her interviews, it often felt like she wasn't truly engaging with the question at all. Instead, she seemed locked on returning to whatever talking points she had practiced beforehand, even when they didn't fit the moment. That constant pull back toward scripted, ultra-safe lines created a noticeable sense of distance, almost as if she were just waiting for an easier question so she could retreat into her comfort zone. And when politicians do that, when the script becomes more important than genuine communication, it shows. Harris's interviews became a clear example of how relying too heavily on rehearsed messaging can leave viewers feeling puzzled, unconvinced, and ultimately disconnected.
But he didn't get mad.
Right.
And then I also made the point that, you know, I went home that night and I was getting into bed in 60 Minutes. I taped it, and there he is on 60 Minutes, and he's like ranting and raving. I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
This is not the guy I met.
Yeah.
And so I'm just the reporter here. I'm just telling you.
This
you
was
know,
my experience.
These aren't casual bystanders or neutral analysts. These are lifelong, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats who suddenly have something positive to say about their biggest political adversary, Donald Trump. And that alone is enough to send shockwaves through certain parts of the left. For years, the unofficial rule has been simple. Democrats must stand united in their contempt for Trump. No nuance, no exceptions, no room for independent thinking. So when voices like Bill Maher and Cheryl Hines step outside that rigid script and admit that Trump has redeeming traits or moments worth acknowledging, it sets off outrage within some Democratic circles and left-leaning media spaces. It disrupts a storyline they've spent years reinforcing. They don't want anyone, from pundits to celebrities to everyday voters, expressing anything other than hostility or alarm when Trump's name comes up. The idea that a loyal Democrat could appreciate even one thing about him feels like a betrayal. And that's what makes this moment so revealing. It shows just how inflexible and emotionally charged the political expectations on the left have become.
Republicans have been very kind to me from the beginning. They weren't mean.
No.
And they never have been.
No.
And I can't say that for the Democrats.
I agree. That's the difference that people don't, I think, see. They're like, why did you turn on the Democrats? Well, first of all, I didn't. Like I said, we voted for the same person.
For years, Republicans were cast as the harsh ones, the cold, unyielding side of American politics. But now, Bill Maher and Cheryl Hines are flipping that script entirely, drawing from their own experiences and observations to show a very different reality. More and more, it's becoming obvious that the Democratic Party can be just as unforgiving, if not even more so, especially toward anyone who dares to break from the approved narrative. The moment you express a thought even slightly outside the accepted boundaries, they don't just challenge you, they go after you. They slap on labels, launch attacks, and in many cases attempt to cancel you outright. The message couldn't be clearer. Toe the line completely or prepare to be punished. Maher and Hines calling out this shift matters because it shines a light on something many have quietly sensed but were too hesitant to voice. The Democrats aren't always the nurturing, empathetic side they claim to be. They can be brutally ruthless.
Democrats have been having a lot of donor retreats lately where liberal strategists hold ideathons, where they try to figure out why they keep losing elections. You know, apart from using words like ideathon. And now one idea that's getting a lot of attention is the Dems need to find their Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe Rogan, because that's why Kamala lost. Republicans have a podcast.
That's true, but the Democrats don't just need their own version of Joe Rogan. They desperately need their own version of Donald Trump, someone genuine, brutally honest, unafraid to speak plainly, and bold enough to stand up to the ever-expanding woke machinery, someone willing to push back against the party's slide towards socialist tendencies without hesitation. What the Democrats are missing right now is a leader with real spine, someone who can take criticism, own their flaws, and refuse to be bent by the pressure to follow every new ideological trend. They need figures who aren't terrified of upsetting Twitter, who won't hide behind carefully rehearsed talking points, and who can inspire trust simply by being authentic. Maher's argument is straightforward. The party doesn't just need new voices. They need strong, grounded personalities willing to challenge their own side when it matters. Only then can they start rebuilding credibility.
Or you could consider this. Instead of conjuring up a new Joe Rogan, ask yourself why you lost the old one. Because he used to be on your side. He smokes pot on the air. I don't think he's that much of a far-right ideologue. I don't think his mind is completely inflexible. His neck, yes. But not his mind. And he's expressed unease with some things Trump is doing, as has a certain disgruntled former employee named Elon Musk, who, like Joe, is another guy who 5 years ago was thought of as a liberal, but got driven into the other camp by bad attitudes and bad ideas.
This is exactly the same flawed thinking that's pushing voices like Cheryl Hines and Robert F. Kennedy away from the liberal fold. More and more, Democrats say they feel disconnected from the party's direction, not because of one single issue, but because the overall trajectory, policies, and core ideologies no longer resonate, or worse, feel fundamentally misguided. There's a growing perception that the party has lost touch with reality, prioritizing ideological purity over practical solutions and punishing anyone who dares to question the prevailing narrative. Sadly, even as this exodus continues, there seems to be little appetite within the party to reflect or course correct. Change is resisted, either from stubbornness or fear of losing control, leaving longtime supporters frustrated and disillusioned. This refusal to adapt or acknowledge missteps is exactly what drives talented, thoughtful voices away, and it serves as a serious warning. If the party cannot evolve, more allies will inevitably look elsewhere for alternatives. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.